Hi, my name's Wendy with loveandstampin.com. I'm excited you're here today because I have something super cute and fun to show you. This is, what do you call these? Pop-up window cards, I guess you could call them. Anyway, we're using a color splash. So we have a specific color combination that we're using for these cards. And then we're gonna put together an amazing card so that you can see how it fits together. But what I'm actually going to do is I'm gonna show you the finished cards first, and then I'm gonna walk you through a few of the steps on how to put them together. So you really don't need to know every detail beginning to end. And I know for some of you that's boring. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna show you these different cards that I've made, and then I'm gonna walk you through some of the steps on how to make some of them. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I really appreciate it if you give me a thumbs up on this video and subscribe, because that helps YouTube know that you like my videos, and I appreciate that. So if you can do that for me, I would greatly appreciate it. Drop me a comment below if you have any questions. And as always, all the items I used today will be in the description below the video, as will a link to my blog post, which has the dimensions and information on how to cut everything and stuff like that. So all you have to do is look in the description of the video, click on those links, or tap on them if you're on your phone, and it will take you over to my blog post or to my online store where you can shop. Thanks so much for hanging out with me. Let's get into it. All right, our color combo for today is Night of Navy, Cinnamon Cider, Bumblebee, and Garden Green. These colors are perfect for masculine or outdoorsy like cards, and I thought it would go perfect with this bundle and one other bundle I have to show you today. So for this card, I'm just showing you the basic way to put it together. These pieces are cut at 6 1/4 by 5 1/2, and then they're scored at a 1/2 inch and 1 inch on each side. And then the middle piece here that I'm putting down, which will be the background, is cut at 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. So it fits nicely inside there. Now, when this card is folded flat and assembled, it fits in a regular A2 size card, envelope. So it will mail and fit in a normal envelope, and you don't have to worry about if it will go in regular mail. The other card we're making today doesn't, but we'll talk about that in a minute. So here, I just wanted to show you the ink blending that I did in the background, because this is the only element of the card that's not super obvious when it's finished. So basically, I took Night of Navy ink and I ink blended the top, and then I took Garden Green and ink blended the bottom. And I'm not worrying about having perfect ink blending that's really smooth or dark, because ultimately, my goal with this was to just make it not stark white. So I'm trying to move fairly quickly and just get this done, because it's not something you're even going to notice when the card is actually assembled and all the pieces go on. But at the moment, I just knew that if it was stuck in the back there and then all the elements were put on top of it, it would look very stark white, and I wanted to tone that down. All in all, the way I did the ink blending with kind of a rough hand gave it kind of the effect of like a cloudy sky, or maybe even a little bit of a stormy sky. So I was happy with the results with that. Now the Garden Green here at the bottom, you are literally not going to see it all. I actually intended for you to be able to see it a little more than you do when the card is complete, but in the end, you really do not see it unless you're peering down the card instead of looking at the card face on. For this card, all I show you is the measurements, how I die cut the window in the front, and then I'm going to show you the complete finished card. I didn't really think it was necessary to show you all the stamping and coloring that went into each little piece. Honestly, the only thing I colored was the horse and rider. Everything else was, the windmill was die cut out of Night of Navy ink. The cows were stamped in Cinnamon Cider, and the hay bales were stamped in Bumblebee. The one cool thing I did with one of the hay bales is before I adhered the top piece of this card shut, you'll see here that there's one hay bale that's kind of sticking up further. I actually wedged that in between the two pieces of the card before I adhered them. So you can see here, I just layered some garden green behind the horse, added a fence, a happy birthday sentiment. The cows are in the very back, and it was done. Okay, this card, I definitely spent a little bit more time showing off how I made this card. This is my favorite of the two. I think they're both beautiful. I'm really happy with the results on both of them, but this one truly was my favorite of the two. It was definitely the most time consuming, and so I wanted to walk you through a few different pieces and parts of it. So first and foremost, I used StazOn black ink. This is really important because I chose to do a watercolor technique, and you don't want to use Memento Tuxedo black ink because it will smear. So one of my favorite techniques is taking an ink pad, squeezing it together, and getting a bunch of ink on the palette like I've done here. And then using a water painter to pick up the ink and paint your images. So we're going to use Garden Green and Bumblebee. And I have to say, I'm a little bit proud about how this turned out considering the limited use of colors that I was using. So what I'm going to do here is get my area all set up, and I want to give you this tip. I was given this tip by a watercolor artist, and she said anytime you are watercoloring, basically doing anything, you want all your elements on the same side. So in other words, you want your cloth, your water, your ink, or your paint all on the same side. You don't want your paint on one side of your image and then your water bucket on the other side, because then you risk dripping drops as you move your brush across your work. So if you keep everything on one side, you're always going back to one side to pick up ink or to clean a brush in water or whatever the element may be. So anyway, I always appreciated that tip. I thought it was one of the best tips I had ever heard, and it's so simple and basic, but honestly, I had never thought of it before. So here we go. I'm doing this in regular time at the beginning, and then I'm going to speed it up a lot. Here, I'm doing it in regular time because I want to take the time to explain to you A, what I'm doing, and B, I want you to be able to see how long something like this actually takes. I think often we watch YouTube videos where somebody colors something, they speed the video up so fast that it makes it seem and feel like they did it in no time at all. And the truth is, no matter how good you are, it is a time-consuming process to color intricate images like this. So what I'm doing is I'm going straight into the ink in the palette, picking it up full force, laying it down at the base of a petal, which is where it would be the darkest. And then I'm wiping my aqua painter off and pushing more water down so that it dilutes the ink that is there. So the goal is to create shadows and then draw out the pigment so that it's lighter at the tip of the leaf, because that's how it would look in real life. So I just continue through this process, and I'm about to speed it up here so you'll see what I mean. But I continue through this process, and then you end up with something like this. So now you can see there's variation in the color. I'm mixing my Bumblebee and my Garden Green to make this kind of olivey green look. Got to be a little careful with this, because if you get mixed too much, then you end up with a brown. And now that that main succulent in the middle is dry, I'm going back in and I'm adding more shadows. So I'm adding more dark pigment at the base, and I'm going ahead and just creating lots of different colors and variations by mixing my inks together. So there is a succulent called a blue rose. I have several of them in my yard. They were from my grandpa's house. And so I have kind of a emotional attachment to them, I guess you could say. They were dug up from his house, and I absolutely love them. So I was trying to replicate the color of them here. I didn't get spot on, but I definitely got closer than I thought I would, I guess. So I'm happy with it. You can see that one up there has a little bit more of a blue tint to it. And then I'm going in and picking up blue almost all by itself, the Night of Navy, and going back over that green in some areas. And then here, I'm just darkening up the one that I chose to be a bumblebee and adding some green to it. Here I'm going through, putting the dark next to the stem, and then going back in and lightening it up. And all in all, I just continue to go back over all of these elements until I get them exactly how I want them and to have the depth that I want. So on this succulent, I decided I was going to try to just do a solid Night of Navy succulent. I did not like it. So I ended up not doing very much with it and just giving up. It just wasn't turning out how I wanted, and I was like, I'm done. Okay, for the terracotta pot. This is a technique I learned when I took a watercolor class. Sorry, that went really fast, but basically you pick up full pigment and then you just go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and the pigment will slowly decline to get lighter and lighter and lighter. So then in the middle, it was almost white, and that's what I want because I wanted that highlight. Okay, this piece of cardstock is cut at 6 1/4 by 5 1/2, just like the other one, except instead of scoring at a 1/2 inch and 1 inch, we're scoring at a 1/2 inch and 3/4 of an inch. So it's essentially going to make the pop-up piece of this card thinner. However, it also makes the card wider. So this card will not fit into a regular A2 size envelope. When you are folding the edges, you want to fold down and then back on itself. So you're creating a little Z fold, and you do that on both sides. And then when you put the pieces together, you glue them, and of course, then you have your finished product. So this is cinnamon cider cardstock that I'm using. And I have to tell you, I'm currently kind of having a love affair with cinnamon cider. It is just such a beautiful, rich color, and I feel like I just haven't given it really good credit until now. So here I'm just kind of figuring out where I want my window to be and making sure that this is the window shape that I want, and it is. And the way I figured that out is I took the die, I lined it up over the top of the succulent pot and the succulent to see if they would fit nicely within the window. Now I'm going to line this up on my scored piece for my card, and I'm going to cut it out with my die cut machine. Okay, so prior to this, and I'm just going to keep talking while I do all this. Prior to this, you can see the bumblebee stitched rectangles frame. I cut that out ahead of time. So first I decided what size I needed for my succulents to be in the window, and then I went up one size to get the frame. So I stacked those two pieces together, put them through the die cut machine, and out popped this little frame that I have in my hand right here. Okay, so one of the things you didn't see me do is I stamped that succulent, the small succulent, all over the cinnamon cider piece of cardstock in cinnamon cider ink before I attached the stitched rectangle. You wouldn't have to do anything like that if you didn't want to, but I just felt like it gave it more interest and gave it a little bit more of a finished look. Ultimately, this card is very simplistic in its design, meaning there's not a lot going on like the other card. So I felt like adding the succulent stamp all over the card here gave it a little bit extra something, a little bit of interest, without doing anything extra as far as die cutting or anything like that. Okay, so as you continue to watch me assemble this card and finish things out, I'm just going to chit chat with you for a few minutes. Oh yeah, I have to do some ink blending for the back to go behind the succulent. Okay, so what is happening? First of all, it is Celebration is almost over. So if you're new here and you don't know what Celebration is, it is a promotion that Stampin' Up! Runs every year. And this year they only did it for January and February. And usually they do it January, February, and March. So look how beautiful this is. Oh, I love it. So anyway, they're only doing it for January and February. And the thing is that there is this awesome deal where you can purchase the Stampin' Up! Starter Kit for $99 plus tax, and the shipping is free. And you get 5 packs of designer series paper for free. And of course, then you get to be part of my lovely Stampers community, which is exclusive to people who purchase the starter kit. And a lot of people think when they purchase a starter kit, that means they're going to be the type of demonstrator that does what I do, or that you have to host workshops or whatever. And that's just not true. You don't have to do any of those things. You can simply purchase the starter kit and enjoy getting a discount from Stampin' Up! You get 20% off of all your orders. By the way, back to the card, I'm using this long sentiment from Mini Messages, and I die cut the strip from this die cut 3 times so that I would be able to stack them up and they would be really nice and sturdy going on the front of my card. So anyway, if you're interested and you're not sure what all it entails, or you're not sure you would want to do it, just message me or comment below. My email and contact information is in the description below the video, as is all the products for these projects. So if you want to purchase any products, you can do that. But I tell people all the time, if you're going to spend $100 on Stampin' Up! Products, you may as well purchase the starter kit. And I know it's like, you know, like a broken record. I do talk about it a lot, but it's just because I feel guilty every time somebody places a big order with me or multiple big orders with me. I feel some sense of guilt if they don't know that how much money that they could be saving. Okay, so here on this part, I kind of panicked because I thought that I messed the card up. I didn't get the glue. Oh, I don't know what I was thinking. Why didn't I just put the glue on the ends of the sentiment? That would have been much easier. But instead I put them on the card part, and then it was like every time I pulled my finger away or moved something, then something else moved, and it was rough getting this sentiment. See, the other side popped up. It was a little tough getting this sentiment put in place the way it should be. And then here you notice it's a little bit crooked, so then I had to fix it. Anyway, it ended up being fine once I got it all sorted, and no one will know the difference. It is a little bit off kilter, but like I said, nobody's going to know. And then I do have a chance here to fix it and make it not off kilter. But I was like, okay, I'm going to let this one side dry first, and then I'll glue the other side. Because what kept happening is I would glue one side and the other side would pop up. Anyway, it ends up being fine in the end, and I love this card. In fact, I have it sitting up in my windowsill so I can look at it. I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to give this card away, and that's unusual for me. Usually, the instant I make a card, it's in the mail within a week. I don't hold on to my cards. I don't hoard them. I make them to give them. But this one in particular, I really, 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 really loved. So I may have to hold on to it. I don't know. We'll see. It'll probably end up going to somebody. But it also needs a special envelope made for it. And so if you have an envelope size that you think would work well for this, let me know. It ends up being, I think it's 4 3/4 by 5.5. So it's not square. It's just a little bit too wide to fit into a regular envelope. So yeah, it would be fun to put in a gift for something if you were giving this as a gift. Yeah, anyway, there are my 2 finished pop-up window cards. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give me a thumbs up. That is how Stampin' Up! Knows that you liked my video. It's like giving me a little thank you when you do that. Also, subscribe to my channel if you get a chance. I would love that as well. Again, that's like a thank you if you subscribe. And again, if you need any of the products that you've seen today, you can purchase them in my online store. There are links below the video. You can watch other videos from me here, and I hope you have an amazing rest of your day. Bye-bye.